43 missed calls. That's what greeted me the morning after I posted those photos: snow-dusted porch, pine trees, my caption, best Christmas gift I could ask for. For years, my family had forgotten to invite me to Christmas. This time, they remembered within hours, just to announce that my brother and his pregnant wife would be moving in. They mistook my silence for guilt. It wasn't. It was a countdown. By the time they sat me down at that so-called family dinner, I'd already prepared something for them. Something that would make this Christmas unforgettable. For as long as I can remember, Christmas in our family was never about warmth. It was all about appearances. My father, Richard, a high-powered investment executive, always said reputation was a family's greatest asset. My mother, Diane, a former TV anchor turned philanthropist, was the type to smile for charity cameras but forget the waitress's name. And then there was Lucas, my older brother, the golden child. Every one of his achievements was a family event. Mine were background noise. When I was 10, they forgot my birthday because Lucas had a soccer tournament. I sat alone at the kitchen table, a single candle in a store-bought muffin. My grandmother, Ruth, called that night. Furious no one had. She was the only one who ever noticed the small things, the only one who made me feel sick. Years passed, but nothing changed. Lucas became a prophet. Mom bragged about him to her friends, and Dad called him the future of our family. When I graduated with honors, they sent flowers, no card, no call. I told myself it didn't matter, but every holiday proved otherwise. Our house in Cherry Hills Village looked perfect from the outside. 6 bedrooms, white shutters, manicured lawns, but it never felt like home. Behind the Christmas lights and designer wreaths were sharp whispers and invisible pecking orders. Every Christmas, Lucas's gifts filled half the living room. Luxury watches, weekend trips, a new car at 21. My presents were usually a generic card with "Be Grateful" scribbled inside. Grandma Ruth tried to make up for it, sending hand-knitted scarves or inviting me to bake cookies and listen to old carols. Those visits were the only times the holidays didn't sting. But after she retired and moved 2 hours away, I was on my own again. By 30, I'd built a life far from theirs. I was a creative director at Summit Creative Studio, a title I'd earned through sleepless nights and endless rejections. My apartment was small, but it was mine. I hadn't been invited home for Christmas in over a decade. Still, every December, I'd scroll through social media, see their smiling faces under the same chandelier, captioned, "Family is everything." That phrase used to hurt. Now it just made me tired. But this year, something felt different. For the first time, I didn't feel that old ache. I wasn't waiting for an invitation that would never come. I was waiting for something else, something I didn't know yet, but would soon discover. They'd forgotten me every year. I was about to remind them exactly who they'd overlooked. 10 minutes later, my phone buzzed. Then again, and again. Texts from Mom, Dad, Lucas. Dozens of them. "Where did you get the money? You should have consulted us. We'll celebrate at your new place." I stared at the screen, smiling for the first time in a long while. They hadn't invited me to Christmas in years. Now they were inviting themselves. 2 days after I posted the photos, Mom's message popped up in the family group chat. Family dinner, December 23rd, 7 p.m. attendance not optional. I almost laughed. The same people who hadn't spoken to me in months were suddenly issuing summons. I typed a reply, then deleted it. Instead, I marked the date on my calendar like a business meeting. When the night came, the Hale family mansion looked exactly the same. White lights wrapped around every railing. A 20-foot tree glowing in the corner, perfectly curated chaos. I parked at the end of the long driveway and took a deep breath. Dad opened the door before I could knock. Living room. Now. No hello, no hug, not even a smile. His tone was clipped, like a CEO about to fire someone. Mom and Lucas were already seated, both looking as if they'd been rehearsing for a scene. Emily, my sister-in-law, sat beside him, hands on her pregnant belly, eyes downcast but calculating. Dad didn't waste time. "Whose house is that, Isabella?" I took off my coat, folded it over the chair, and sat down. "Mine." "That's impossible," Mom said, her voice trembling just enough to sound fragile. You're only a creative director. You can't afford something like that. I smiled. Apparently I can. Lucas leaned forward. You should have talked to us before making a purchase that big. It's irresponsible. Us, I said. Since when does my paycheck need a family committee? Dad exhaled loudly. Enough. This attitude is exactly the problem. That house is far too big for one person. You should open it for Christmas. Let everyone celebrate together. Mom jumped in. And Lucas and Emily will stay there for a few months after the baby comes. It's perfect for them. Peaceful, spacious. For a moment, I thought I'd misheard. Then I saw the look in Lucas's eyes, entitled, confident, like he was already redecorating. I let out a small laugh. It wasn't loud, but it cut through the room. You want to live in my house? Mom clasped her hands. Just until they find a bigger place, Dad added. It's what families do, Isabella. We help each other. I looked from one face to another, the same faces that had forgotten me for years. When have any of you ever helped me? Silence. Dad's jaw tightened. We raised you. You raised Lucas, I said quietly. I raised myself. Mom's eyes watered on cue. You're being dramatic. No, I said, standing up. Just honest. For 30 years, I've been the provider. Now they need me. As I picked up my coat, Dad's voice turned cold. If you walk out that door, you're cutting ties with this family. I paused, hand on the handle, and smiled faintly. You cut me off years ago. I'm just making it official. The door clicked behind me, sealing 3 decades of silence into a single sound. They thought my silence meant surrender. It didn't. It meant strategy. The night after that dinner, I barely slept. Not because I was angry, but because I wasn't. For once, the rage was gone, replaced by a clarity so sharp it almost hummed. They wanted my house, my peace, the one thing I'd built without them. And they thought I'd hand it over out of guilt or tradition or some twisted sense of family duty. They didn't understand. I'd spent my entire life earning things they got for free. I wasn't giving up this one. The next morning, I called Michelle, my realtor, and asked her to email every document from the house: purchase, deed, mortgage, proof of ownership. Everything with my name on it, I said. She sent it within the hour. I printed every page, slid them into a thick white envelope, and tucked it into my bag. Then I waited. On December 23rd, the date they'd chosen for their family dinner, the text came. Don't be late, Mom wrote. We have things to discuss. I drove through the falling snow, the road winding through neighborhoods decked out in lights and inflatable Santas. Every house I passed looked warm, full of love. By the time I reached theirs, the cold had settled deep inside my chest. The mansion glowed like a cathedral of money. Through the wide windows, I could see the long dining table already set, silverware polished, champagne chilling, smiles rehearsed. When I walked in, all conversation stopped. Dad stood at the head of the table, one hand gripping a glass, the other tucked into his pocket like a general before battle. Good, he said. You're here. Sit down. I didn't. I stayed standing. Say what you came to say. Mom sighed as though I were the problem. Isabella, please. It's Christmas. We don't want to fight. Lucas leaned back, smirking. We just need to be practical. You have a new house sitting empty and we have a baby on the way. It's logical. Logical, I repeated. You mean convenient? He shrugged. Same thing. Dad set his glass down hard enough for it to chime. Your brother needs support. Family supports each other. Where was that support? I asked. When you left me alone with Grandma every holiday for 10 years. When you forgot every birthday until I stopped reminding you. Mom's face tightened. We've made mistakes, but this is not the time to dredge up old pain. That's the problem, I said softly. You think pain has an expiration date. The air shifted. No one moved. Even Emily looked up, her expression flickering between guilt and fear. I reached into my bag and pulled out the envelope. You want to talk about family? Fine. Let's start with honesty. Dad frowned. What's that? The deed, I said, laying it on the table. To my house. The one you think I bought for your son. Lucas scoffed. You don't need to be defensive. Oh, I'm not defensive, I said. I'm documenting. Mom's voice cracked, the tremor rehearsed. Isabella, we just want to be together for Christmas. You're taking this so personally. Personally, I laughed. You excluded me for 13 Christmases. The only time you remembered I existed was when I posted something you wanted. No one spoke. The fireplace crackled behind me, soft and cruel. Then Dad's temper snapped. You're being selfish. You've changed, Isabella. You've become cold, greedy, independent. I interrupted. That's the word you're looking for. He stepped closer. You will not talk to me like that. I'm not a kid anymore, Dad. You can't guilt me into agreement. Lucas slammed his hand. You're part of this family, whether you like it or not. I looked straight at him. You're right. I'm part of it. The part you forgot could survive without you. For a second, no one breathed. Then I did something none of them expected. I smiled. Since we're being practical, I said, sliding a second envelope across the table. Here's a letter from my lawyer. It states that any attempt to access or reside in my property without consent will be considered trespassing. You'll find the relevant legal citations highlighted. Merry Christmas. Mom gasped. Dad's jaw clenched so hard I could hear his teeth grind. Lucas's smirk vanished. You wouldn't, he whispered. I already did, I said. That house is mine. The locks are coded. The cameras are live. You're not invited. Mom stood up, face red. We gave you everything. No, I said quietly. You gave me nothing, and I made everything from it. Silence spread through the room like smoke. Even the music from the next room seemed to fade. I turned toward the door, but paused just long enough to meet Dad's eyes. You said I was cutting ties, I said. You were right. I'm finally free. I walked out before anyone could speak. Outside, the snow was falling harder, soft flakes landing on my coat, melting against the heat of my skin. I could still hear them shouting through the door, voices tangled in anger and disbelief. But for me, it was all fading like static. I no longer needed to listen. By the time I reached my car, my phone was already buzzing again. Calls from Mom, texts from Dad, a voicemail from Lucas. I let them ring until the screen went dark. Then I drove. The mountain road curved up through the night, the world shrinking behind me. By the time I reached my house, midnight had passed. The lights I'd strung across the porch flickered softly, greeting me like an old friend. Inside, the fire was still warm. On the counter sat a half-empty bottle of wine, and beside it a single-wrapped box I'd left for myself. Inside was nothing expensive, just a small silver keychain engraved with 3 words, my own home. I sat by the window, looking out over the snow, and finally let out a breath I'd been holding for 30 years. I hadn't ruined Christmas. I proclaimed it. And somewhere down in the city, the people who once owned my silence were learning what it felt like to be ignored. They'd wanted to move into my house. Instead, they moved out of my life. Christmas morning came quiet and golden. My mountain house smelled like cinnamon and pine, the fireplace humming its slow rhythm. Outside, snow piled softly along the deck railing. Inside, laughter filled the air, not theirs, but mine. My cousins had driven up the night before, bringing food, music, and warmth that didn't need performance. Grandma Ruth sat near the window, knitting with her gentle smile. When I handed her coffee, she squeezed my hand. You look peaceful, she said. I am, I answered, surprised by how true it felt. My phone buzzed on the counter. 23 missed calls. I turned it face down. No guilt, no ache, just quiet. That afternoon, we played cards, roasted marshmallows, and sang badly off-key to carols Grandma loved. For once, no one was pretending. As night fell, I stepped outside alone. The valley glowed under the moonlight, endless and still. I'd spent years waiting for my family to remember me. But standing there, I realized being forgotten had set me free. I used to think being left out was the worst kind of pain. Watching them smile in family photos, raise their glasses, pretend I never existed. I thought I wanted to be invited, to feel chosen. But now I understand. Sometimes being excluded is the quietest blessing life gives you. It's the doorway to peace. Every wall I built, every door I locked wasn't made of anger. It was made of boundaries, boundaries that protect the version of me I fought so hard to become. I didn't buy that house to prove a point. I bought it to finally have a place where love wasn't conditional. where I didn't have to earn my seat at the table. They can keep their perfect dinners, their polished lies, their toasts to appearances. I'll keep what they can't, real warmth, earned silence that feels like freedom. Sometimes peace doesn't look like reconciliation. Sometimes it looks like snow falling outside your own window, while the world that once hurt you keeps spinning somewhere far away. If you've ever had to choose peace over belonging, tell me in the comments. You're not weak for walking away. You're strong for finally coming home.